Welcome to Dayton Warcry Club. I'm Warren, and today I'm joined by my co-host Fred Shred and special guest Jolli. Today we'll discuss the upcoming Warcry tournament at Gen Con and then have an in-depth discussion of the Harrowdeep Warbands that were released in the recent White Dwarf. So Jolli, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of like how much time you have in the hobby, what got you in, other gaming hobbies and stuff like that. Like what got you into Warcry?
What got me into Warcry is, it was about 2.5 years ago. I was dating a girl, and she was interested in miniature games. And I've played miniature games ever since 16. But she didn't want something large scale with lots of squads or anything. And so I told her, well, let's go to a game store and take a look at what there was. And we saw Warcry there, and she really liked the Age of Sigmar models. And they had just come out with they had just shown the rules for Age of Sigmar Warbands. So what we did is we picked up some stuff. We put it together. She did a lot more painting than I did. And we enjoyed playing it, so we did that. I stuck with Warcry after me and her parted ways because I really dug it, and I also found the Warcry Discord, which I really dug the community on that Discord. They were fun. Everybody on that's fun to talk to, and the game itself is just ridiculously easy to get people to play, even if it's somebody that's not invested or wants to play on a normal basis. Teaching them how to play and then having them just play a few games with you is really simple. So that's why I like Warcry and how I got into it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, like I said, I've been playing miniatures games since I was 16. I'm 39 now. I played everything. First miniatures game was Warhammer 40K, and I got into it when a friend said, hey, here's a blister pack with these sniper scouts in it, is what they're called. So you just go ahead and paint these up and let me know if you're interested. And of course, I put them together and painted them up, and I was interested. And then he took me to a game store, kind of similar to what I did to the girl I was dating, and he said, here's this wall of stuff. Is there anything you want to buy? And I was like, yeah, here's a couple $100. Sure. This sounds good to me. And ever since then, I've been in the miniatures games of all kinds.
3,000 points later.
Oh, yeah. So I remember specifically, I was in high school at the time, and me and him found a website, since the internet was still fairly new at that time, at least having access to it. Called New Wave, I think is what it was called. I might be wrong on that, but we found 40K stuff pretty cheap on that, and we both put in a big order. And the order came in the day that we had a class trip to New York. And so me and him got the stuff, and we were putting it together. And my mom came home. She asked, "Are you packed? Are you ready to go to New York? You're leaving in a half an hour." And I'm, shit, I forgot all about that. So I had to put stuff into. Just put it away, pack up, and go to that. I'm sorry for cussing there real quick. It was a really exciting moment, and I'll try not to let that slip again.
It's okay. PG-13, you're allowed one F-bomb.
All right. Well, I'll try not to drop the F-bomb. I'll let somebody else have that one. But
and then, so you also, and we'll talk a little bit about Gen Con, but you also do some TOing and other local events too, right?
Yeah. Ever since War Machine and Hordes first came out, I used to run events for that. And the big reason that I've always run events was to get people interested and build up a community for the games that I'm interested in my area. So with with Warcry on the Discord, there's lots of talks about tournaments and events and everything. And I was going to Gen Con anyway, so I figured, why not submit for a tournament? So I put in a submission for a tournament, and it was accepted. And I put it as a smaller tournament, 24-player cap. I checked today, 17 players are signed up for it. So I'm pretty pumped for that. And really, that's kind of what I do with tournament organizing for any of the games I play. Are there people in the area that are interested but aren't really organized into a play group? Well, I'll help put together some events so that way everybody can have a centralized place to play, get to meet each other, and a community can build up. I do that with Magic. I've done that with lots of tabletop minis games when Dice Masters from WizKids came out 8, 9, maybe even 10 years ago. I did that, and we had a really big group for that, and it was awesome because the World Championships for Dice Masters came to Columbus for Origins one year. So we were all super pumped. There was a group of about probably 20 of us that just all tested like crazy. And one of our players won the World Championships that year. So, but it's all about the community for me. Having people locally to play with, helping put together events that those people want to play in. And that's why I do much of that TOing. And that's why I submitted for the Gen Con event.
Yeah, we kind of do the same thing locally. Right now, it's really just a lot of us, but then we're trying to expand it out. Have open play at stores and stuff like that, and try and grow it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough. At this point in our lives right now, getting schedules to line up and stuff like that. And so it's not like something we can Warcry every weekend or anything like that.
Yeah,
as much as I love that.
Scheduling's always one of the tough things, but I guess I'm lucky in that regard that I'm a single 39-year-old guy who has no kids, so I've got that extra time to do that. Event organizing for people. So
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm the one that winds up cracking the whip trying to get Zach and Fred like, come on, let's do this.
Yep.
I've said it before on this channel, and I really believe it, that the best thing you can do if you are sitting around saying, man, I wish there were more people to play with in whatever niche game you're playing. And for us, we got our start building up a scene for legacy format Magic the Gathering, where there just were no players in Dayton and we wanted to play, is show up and play. If you are just sitting around being like, man, I wish more games were going on a regular basis, start the games, be at the store and play the games. And if the game is fun and you're outgoing with it and good at bringing new players in, the scene will grow if you're out there doing it. And that's the only way to do it. Someone has to step up and be like, well, I guess we'll be here with the cards or with the miniatures and make it happen. So that's cool.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct that way. And I love the fact that you used the word outgoing, because that's kind of one of the things that I found out is be open to talking about what you're doing to people who look curious, because there are plenty of play groups for lots of games, but a lot of times they'll keep to themselves, and it's really tough to find out from them what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. We got the intros out of the way here. We have our usual opening segment here for hobby update. So Zach's not here. We're going to show his stuff off anyway, though. He's got a bum leg. We'll show this next week and have him talk about it. But he resin printed a big dice tower, and he also, relating to our topic today, painted up the Exiled Dead. He picked them up a couple weeks ago, and I think he's got that whole warband. Yeah, that's all the dudes.
That's the whole warband. Yep. He's been looking kind of for an inroad into Soulblight Gravelords, which is a really tricky faction to get starter lists built for, I think, because it's big and it's very deep, and there's a million different ways you can go, even from like the core, like, do I want to be a 15 warband or 15 model warband? Do I want to be a 6 model warband? Like, both are totally something you can do, and they'll both be fine. Like, so he was looking for an inroad, and I love the Exiled Dead models, and I think he did a great job with them.
Yeah, those look nice. I love that warband, and I'm pumped to see them on the table. So I'm glad that there's some people in your game group that are going to be running them soon.
And then, so over on my side, I have a lot more. I just didn't have pictures of them, but spent a lot of time over the 4-day weekend we had for the 4th of July. Painted up Warcry starter train, and I got it pretty much where I want it. with the wood, with the metal, with the stone. It's sitting. I need to spray varnish it this weekend. Maybe do a dash of weathering powder to kind of tie the browns a little bit closer to the grays. But yeah, it was a joy to paint. Super simple. I got all the 4 big pieces plus the giant head all done, which is which is pretty much the worst of it. I have the bell tower to do yet, and I already have barricades done too. So yeah, I have the worst is over for that terrain set, and so that's another project done. And then I can start looking at warbands again, and then slowly start on Red Harvest terrain.
Just in time for the new Gur set to come out with this whole new set of terrain.
That's right. We'll see what it looks like. It may get me, it may not. We know Zach's looking at it. You know, we'll see how deep we buy into it though. So we'll open up. We'll talk about Gen Con. So for those that don't know, so at the Saturday of Gen Con at 1 p.m. is the Warcry tournament. 7 slots left. Like Jolly said, they've got 17 players in there right now. So one thing I want to mention here. So I think we're expecting 4 rounds, correct?
It's going to be 4 rounds. I had to think about the time length I put in for, but yes, going for 4 rounds.
So important note about 17 players now. At 4 rounds, mathematically, if no one drops, or if you have more than 16 players, now you have the potential to have more than one player at 4-0. And so this brings up an important question in terms of, okay, so what's the scoring like for the rounds?
So I'm still putting together the tournament packet, but I was thinking about what is needed for tiebreakers today. Because after I realized it was at 17 players instead of 8 like last time I checked, I got thinking about that. And I think what I'm going to use is, and I've got to decide which one. There are several point systems, some for tournaments, some for campaigns, where you're awarded points based off of what you eliminate from the other person's warband.
Correct. Yep.
I believe I'm going to use some variation of those. Haven't decided which ones yet because there's several of them available for tiebreaker points. Now, those won't directly affect your win-loss record or winning the game, but it will be a way to determine placing when people at the end of 4 rounds have same records.
Yeah, and so to clarify, Adepticon used the same thing. Just by the book in the Tome of Champions. You get a major victory or a minor victory based on the number of the models in your warband remaining. So if you win, you either win 20-0 or 15-5, and that ends up being a sort of first tiebreaker. If I get 4 major victories, then I could be the winner free and clear. If I get a lot of minor victories, it's very possible someone at 3-1 with major victories could theoretically pass me. So there's that to consider. And then also, if you use the objectives at Adepticon, that was additional point. Not a huge factor, but could be a second tie break when you take that extra point and throw that into the overall scores. Yeah, but something to take note of.
Yeah, I was thinking if we hit 22 to 24 players signed up, I would probably toss those into those hidden agendas, just because I want to be sure that at the end of 4 rounds, I have, with these tiebreaker points, a definitive winner, because it feels really bad to be completely tied of someone else and having to come down to some sort of complete randomness that decides who got first or second, or even really any place. I mean, even if you're you're standing in a 24-player tournament, if you would have had 8th, but all of a sudden you're at 12th because you shared a win-loss record with 5 other people, but you tabled lots of your opponents and could have probably been higher up if these would have been used, these point systems. I think even that's something that is nice.
Yeah, and again, the system's still pretty young. I mean, we've seen it in action, for 2 tournaments and Adepticon, in terms of actually seeing the actual breakout, and we've seen where it can kind of break as well if there's like a mispairing or something like that happens. But yeah, well, I guess a few more tournaments to kind of see exactly how if the system works, if there's any flaws in the system.
Just to jump in at this point and say that if you are a Warcry fan and you're wanting more organized events, of which there are not a ton right now, we're hoping that scene grows. If you're at all able to go to this thing, that's the best thing you could possibly do, was to make this thing, to fill this thing up and make it as big an event as possible. It builds momentum for the next one. Like people come back when the tournaments fire, and people don't come the next time when they don't. So,
Well, yeah, this will definitely fire. And also the other thing is this will inform Nova, which is I haven't checked it. I forgot to write down the number that was signed up for Nova.
Plus, we just want more tournament data if you're a competitive player. The bigger the tournaments are, the better your data is. So,
yep, more lists. So let's talk about the missions.
So the missions, as you've kind of got laid out right there, using ones from the 2021 Tome of Champions. That's what they're from, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. The first 4, among the Discord group, it's pretty much the consensus that the first 4 are pretty good for tournament play. Where everybody also agrees is that the 2 treasure missions can be very
swingy.
Yeah.
Based on who goes first, have access to flyers, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is something that we talked a little bit about at Origins when we were just playing the game, is instead of those 2 treasure missions, let's try 2 missions that aren't as swingy. And we looked at that picture that you have, the combination of Bloodmarked, Winds of Fate, and Blood Rush. It worked pretty well when we played it. And I'm still heavily leaning towards having that as one of the missions, with a possible little change to Bloodmarked.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of bothers me about Bloodmarked is the win condition's a good one, but I want to make sure the games end in not a draw. And Bloodmark has the chance of 2 Bloodmarked fighters being all that's left and kind of running away from each other. So the thing I was going to ask the 2 of you today to help me discuss a little bit is, how could we change that last paragraph there in Bloodmarked to make it so that way after an hour and 10 minutes, we're almost guaranteed to not have a draw?
So my initial thought is, again, I don't claim to be a designer or know like what the best or most fun tweak ever is.
Mm-hmm.
But I would kind of flip the question around a little bit and kind of ask, hey, what is the overall plan for draws? Since I didn't mention that as well. What happens if a game goes to time? I don't think the TOC even mentions that either. Like, does it become like a 10-10 draw? Like, what's the procedure for that?
And I think that's a very valid conversation. Something I've been thinking about and I'm not sure of yet, how to handle draws. I don't know if it should just be points that you have remaining or points that you've killed from your opponent, or if you just leave it at a draw and just have that be part of the placing consideration. So that way maybe players, when they're getting to that 50-minute mark of their 70 minutes, maybe they'll start playing more aggressively because a draw is kind of a
draw.
sentence.
A draw equal to a loss. So 10-10 is actually pretty generous if there's 20 points up for grabs in a match. If a draw becomes something like 5-5 or very close to a minor loss to everybody, to both players, then you heavily incentivize the players to finish the game one way or the other.
So that's more of what I'm leaning towards, because Warcry is a pretty, it's themed to be aggressive, and so I kind of want to lean into that theme a little bit.
Plus, it's more fun to play to win than to play to not lose.
It is definitely more fun to play to win than to play to not lose, and it just leads to better memories of the game too.
If anything, my first thought is that if you're too generous with your draws, you get a lot of late round intentional draws, like you see in Magic the Gathering tournaments, where the final top tables are almost all intentional draws by the final rounds of the tournament. Some TOs I know have gone to 0-point draws as a way to circumvent that. Like, hey, if you draw, you just both lose. That's it. Someone better win.
Yep.
As far as this particular one goes, you can always kind of battle royale it, right, where the board just keeps shrinking through the subsequent rounds until it's very, very small, and then you have to fight.
I like that idea a lot, Fred, because even if you're down to just the two blood-marked fighters, it's forcing them into there closer to each other, where one of them is going to see the best opportunities to go ahead and make an aggressive move.
Yeah, something like that could be reasonable. But yeah, you're right. That is the only problem. I like it's a really good casual mission. The blood marked is, and you just keep playing, whatever you do. But in tournament, you really do need a way to end it.
Yeah. Again, I would lean towards, if I were in your shoes, I would lean more towards a global policy on draws to help cover, a situation for a draw on blood marked or all the rest of them are set to end after 4 rounds anyway. But what happens if the score is tied at the end of 4 rounds? Like, you still have to have some sort of scoring policy for if a game just happens to end in a draw.
Yeah, I think the draw policy is going to be they're not going to be generous draws, because I want to incentivize people to, as kind of as you already said, play to win, not play to not lose. So, but that'll be something that here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, when I put the tournament packet up on my YouTube channel, that's one of the things that I'll have addressed in there, so that way everybody knows ahead of time, so they know that way if it impacts their list building, they can take that into consideration.
So
absolutely, I mean, you build to the tournament, right? Like, as much information as you have coming out, everybody has that information. If you don't like the way your list plays under those rules, bring a different list. That's just, if you don't think you can play aggressive, build a list that can.
Yeah, that's an important point, because at Adepticon, no one knew what the missions were going to be. It turned out to be TOC missions, and if you were prepped for that, then you had an advantage, but no one really knew.
Yeah, and this isn't Kill Team where you get to find the mission and then build your list right there at the table, right? You got to have it ready to go.
Exactly. You have 0 flex, 0 roster spots to play around with. So then, last question. The ulterior motive is now present, right? We brought you on specifically to pump you for information for Gen Con. But any ideas for the last mission? What you're thinking about?
The last one, there's several that I like the feel of, but I haven't even really narrowed it down to where mentioning a couple is all of them. So that's going to be something that I'm going to leave open for now and not disclose even what I'm considering. But I just took a look into the calendar. I will have the tournament packet up by July 20th. That's when I'll put it on my YouTube channel and have it up with all the information in there. That'll be 2 weeks before Gen Con starts. So that way, that's 2 weeks for people to get stuff together and packed up or finished painting or whatever they want to do with it.
Field questions from the community. Yeah. Field questions from the community as well.
Yep. And that's 2 full weeks before they would even probably leave for Gen Con. So we'll leave it at that. What I am going to do with the final mission, though, is it is going to be one that has one of those definitive ends. But, of course, a bunch of the original missions, that's kind of what I'm looking through at the moment from the cards, are 3 rounds. It will be changed to 4 rounds, though.
Yep, that's
So
no argument there.
Casual group, and every game plays better in 4 rounds. I think I have yet to find one where I'm like, I wish that it had been over a round ago. Like the game plays better in 4 rounds.
Yep. So that's the one thing that will change on whatever it is. It will be 4 rounds and not 3, because that's another thing that feels bad is if you have certain units that even if they come onto the board round 2, they just come on the board on a weird spot. You might spend almost 2 rounds, if not 2 rounds, getting to where they need to be.
So double the first round they come out, then like move and get 1 attack, and then the game's over.
Yeah, and so they didn't really impact the game. So I like that 4th round because, like you said, I found that it just allows more to happen with a bunch of your fighters, especially the ones that don't come in, that aren't on the board right away.
Good stuff.
All right. So now,
one more thing, real quick.
Yes.
Sorry. I want to let everybody know, and you already know this. I have medals for the tournament, a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place medal, and they are the original Warcry organized play kit medals. They came with medallions that were pretty good sized medallions. You have one.
Yep.
You got it from Beat Me at Origins. But those will be part of the prizing. But those won't necessarily be all the prizing. So I just want to let everybody know that there are official Warcry medals up for grabs in this event.
And
side prizes too. What about best painted? Are you doing best painted?
I would love to do best painted, and I'm planning on it at the moment. I'm working on getting additional prizing right now, so that way I can award people for that additional prizing. I would really like to do best painted. That's going to be the next one I add if I can get that additional prizing. And with the tournament packet, I'll verify what all the places will be. But pretty much consider best painted to be one of them. And here's which do you think is more fair? Should I just pick which one I think is the best painted with criteria? Or should we do it as each player votes for one that's not theirs? And then I'll literally have everybody submit a vote, and then I'll count them up. Which do you think would be best?
Ooh, I don't know. I think if you can handle the logistics, I think the voting.
I was going to say, I think the voting, it's just a little more community focused, and I think it's kind of fun.
Yep, and that's why I wanted to ask about that. I like the idea of the voting, and I think I'll be able to handle the logistics. I just like the fact that everybody else at that point has a say in it, and also gets that opportunity, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes for voting, to intentionally go look at everybody's army and kind of admire them.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, that's good. I'm really excited about the event. Let's talk about some warbands now.
Yeah, let's do it. So Harrowdeep. So when putting these slides together, I wanted to focus a lot on comparing the new Harrowdeep fighters with existing fighters, because I think that's where a lot of the good analysis happens. And I wanted to start with Blackpowder's Buccaneers, specifically because I think a lot of people were kind of ragging on Blackpowder. They said he was a bad tyrant. They said he was a bad Thunderfist. And although he competes for the same spot as a Thunderfist in a list because of the leader icon, I don't think that's necessarily a fair comparison. And so here I've actually taken some of the closest models to him, kind of put them on here. So Gorlock Blackpowder is a switch hitter. He actually is threatening at both range and melee, which puts him in a separate class. And I think you had a lot more thoughts on it, Fred.
Okay, so what Gorlock brings to the table is, and you can see here where it's laid out the closest comparisons. He is a man eater. As a like aesthetic choice. He has the same remark, and he is a upgrade man eater. He gets an extra melee attack, and his shooting attack is obviously much better. It's long range. It has higher strength. It does more damage. So he's already kind of the thing about ogres is I love ogres and the faction's very good, but the one thing they don't have is a lot of speed. And so I like the ability to kind of get these dual role models in there because you can put them out to give them good shooting lanes, and then if they get charged, they can fight their way out of it because it's a little harder to get like support from all the way across the map. So I guess long story short, he's 10 points more than a Thunder Fist, which is significant. In that the Thunder Fist is very, very good and can fight reasonably well at close range. But the thing I like about Gorlock is he fights as well as a glutton in melee range. And when you need something killed, like in a specific round, like on demand, he can lay out a tremendous amount of strength 4 attacks at range, which I think is good.
It's that triple broadside, right? Plus 3 attack characteristics takes his profile up to 5-4-2-4, which is very strong shooting profile.
Yes.
And doesn't rely on trip 6s or anything else like that. It's a straight up plus 3 attacks.
Yes. And of course, the only real downside to that is, unlike a Thunder Fist, the Thunder Fist can kill a unit and use Might Makes Right, and he's better at mowing down chaff. But if you're looking for something that you can kind of like on demand burst down bigger models than chaff models, I think Gorlock is pretty good at that. And at that cost point, you don't have a lot of ogre leaders that have, like the Butcher is the closest in Thunder Fist, but to get anything like with a better melee attack profile than Gorlock, you have to spend a lot of points. So you're talking like your 300 point leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not. I know that a lot of the consensus is like if you have a decent melee profile and a decent shooting profile, it's typically not as good as having a really good one of either. But I think Gorlock might be right in that sweet spot where he can do enough where you can park him somewhere as a primary shooting model, but if attacks opportunity come his way, he can definitely get melee, or vice versa. Your game plan can be to run him into combat, but if people try to disengage from him or whatever, he can definitely shoot them. So I like him a lot. I think I'm higher on him than a lot of people, but I like Gorlock quite a bit, and he fits really well point wise into some of these lists.
Yep. Speaking of which, there's another comparison here too. So mange versus a Novelar. Sometimes if you have 10 extra points, you get a little upgrade here, and an extra attack for 10 points to kind of use up all your points. And
obviously an extra inch of movement in an army that its one weakness is it's slow. It only has 1 flyer and it's garbage. And that's the one that was also just added in Blackpowder's Buccaneers, but it costs more than 2 Novelars, and it's just a bad Novelar with a 10-inch fly. It's just not a good model.
Yeah, we're not covering any of the bad models from this.
Yeah, which is a shame because that's like Ogre's the one thing they needed was a decent flyer, but it's a little greedy. The faction's already insane. So this is my Gorlock Blackpowder list. You get Gorlock, you get a Thunder Fist. I don't think you can leave home without at least one Thunder Fist. But this is bringing in Gorlock as the instead of the second Thunder Fist. So he's sort of doing that hybrid Thunder Fist / good melee leader role. You get an Ogre Glutton. You don't have to knock the points down into a Gorger or anything like that. You get a full-fledged Glutton with clubs, and you get 6 Chaff models, one of which is Mange, 5 Noblars, and of course Noblars are very, very good. So you get 9 models, 3 full-size heavy-duty Ogres. They're pretty good chance that any one of those 3 is going to be the best pure combat model on the board, depending on what you're playing against. And you get 3 of them, while still keeping the model count to 9, which I like a lot.
The other thing with getting Mange in this list is there is a double that uses him from Warband.
This is true.
We don't have the guy to take advantage of it.
No, we.
But no,
that's no. Yep.
There's another Noblar with the rune mark to make Mange get the free attack.
Which is something to look at, because I think obviously again getting Mange like 15 inches down the battlefield in air round is something that ogres don't have the ability to do. I think that the Noblar that ability is attached to is not spectacular stats wise, but
the other thing and why I'm not super high on that ability is the fact that like you're getting a free attack or a free move on a 55-point chaff model, which is just like, if you're giving a free attack or a free move on a 150-point unit or a 200-point unit, now we're talking, right? Now you're getting some value. But
yeah, for me, it's all about the move. It's all about just like getting down, grabbing an objective or whatever the case may be faster than you ordinarily would be able to.
Whip the monkey, grab the treasure sort of thing.
Yeah. Obviously, the extra attack isn't anything real exciting. Yeah, Gorlock Blackpowder can give the extra move to the bird, which we're not taking.
Not taking because it's not good. Unfortunately, that's
it's real expensive. And there's a few other things that we're going to see here as we kind of go about this, which makes me wonder, like, is there going to be another update to the pointing algorithm in either TOC 22 or whatever new version of Warcry, if there's new GA books that come along with it. If there's gonna be another update to the pointing algorithm that makes flyers really expensive based on what
they got hammered in this round of Underworld Warbands.
Yep. And then some of the super inefficient Stormcast guys got from what we've seen actually just got straight up better across the board. Yeah, so I think they're still like fine-tuning the algorithm.
A relatively recent warband like the Cruel Boys, generally speaking, in this Underworld's warband got more efficient, and that warband is not that old.
So moving on to the Exiled Dead, and kind of wish we had Zach here. I meant to ask him, if he had a listed in mind, and here's where I wanted to focus on. So you got 3 dudes from that warband, and they're zombies with movement 4. And that's unique for Soulblight Gravelords, because most of the time for your chaff, you're stuck with 3 movement chaff. Whether it's zombies, grave guards, skeletons, whatever. So, paying 60 points, if say for example, if you absolutely didn't want to play around the drawback of 3 movement chaff, here's 3 models for you right there. And their rate, we looked them up, compared them to all the other chaff models. 60 points is right about the exact cost you'd pay for 3 attacks, 3 strength, 1 4, 10 wounds on a normal chaff model. So they're completely fair.
Which is great. But the problem is, of course, is that Soulblight Gravelords is already a really good faction. So getting like an on-rate chaff model isn't necessarily something that like is going to revolutionize the way we build lists for them, but it's certainly an option. 4-inch move is good. The fact that they like cost 10 more points is not ideal, but it is what it is. There's a lot of ways to build the lists. And of course, you have Regulus, who is like not very good, but very cheap.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I put him. I put Regulus in there too, just because you do have another 45 pointer, so you can save further points, just like the 40 pointer from Sepulchral Guard. So you have those options though too.
Now,
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I was about to say the one thing I do like about these guys, I can see them maybe coming into play more than just do you have the points or anything, is if you're running a Soulblight Gravelords list, when you break into your 3 groups, you always have one group that doesn't have access to a leader model. So you either want some of the newer ones, like what are the generic vampires?
Vyrkos Bloodborne.
Yes, the Vyrkos Bloodborne. So if you have those models, you could always take those for that third group to give speed to it. So that way it does more than what just 3-inch zombies or skeletons do. These 3 60-point models kind of fill that same thing. Speed 4 or speed 3. They're all still, for the most part, good chaff. If they happen to get close to your leaders can interact with them. But they also got that double then. You got all 3 of them. That double can get those couple of extra points of damage and to finish off stuff.
And there's actually a 4th one, I believe, that's not on here.
There
that
is,
has
yep.
the same ability. The guy with the big arm.
Yep, he's a 70 pointer. I didn't include him because I was looking more at the cheap ones, but yeah, you could definitely build around that ability.
I think, basically, long story short, for me, I don't think you take these guys unless you're planning on taking a bunch of them and using that double and using the leader has a triple that buffs all their attacks within 9 inches. So if you're going to take them for the warband synergies, then it starts to get interesting for me. On rate, I just don't think there's a lot of room in Soulblight Gravelords for them. But I like the double. I like that you can like stack it up, and I like you can like get down the board a little quicker and then pop that double. That's something you can do.
I like that. I'm always, whenever they introduce models that maybe aren't just upgrades, downgrades, but have one of those nice little abilities that adds just enough flair to it that you want to use it sometimes. I'm all about models that have that too.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Zach winds up building with it and what he winds up adding.
I'll be interested to see what he does. I want to see those Exiled Dead on the board so bad.
The number one thing you'd have to try to find to add, of course, would be damage. So that would be, in Soulblight Gravelords, how do you want to handle trying to get some more damage in there? A lot of lists use Graveguard spam as your primary damage dealers, but you do have access to like the Vargoyle and Vyrkos Bloodborne can crit fish. There's a lot of different ways to go, but that's obviously what these guys are missing. Although the Necromancer, if you have been interested in playing Necromancers, this did give you, in fact, a Necromancer that can actually fight. He's a 4/4/2/4 attack profile with the Dance Macabre quad. If you've been looking to play Dance Macabre but didn't want to be stuck with like a pretty bad model, other than that, it's a way you could go too.
Yeah, and so that the new Necromancer from the Exiled Dead, his magic blast attack. Do you think that 6 strength is a mistake or?
No, it's accurate. There's a lot of magic attacks that have that same profile. 2 attacks, 2 attacks, 6 strength. Yeah, 2 attacks, 6 strength, 3/6. Yeah, I think there's a handful of wizards that have that
6 strength
profile.
is relatively rare on that attack profile.
I was about to say I've seen a couple with like Stormcast and the ogres get 4, and then there's been 1 or 2 that's had 5, but I don't think I had seen a 6 yet.
Yeah, that's relatively high. It makes it a lot better, I think, because obviously the odds of whiffing are a lot lower.
Well, I think it makes it a ton better because now it's going from hits on 4s on some targets and 5s on most targets to hits on 3s on almost anything, and then there's a couple things that hits on 4s.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a overall just a much improved attack profile for Necromancer across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been looking to play Necromancer, this is the one I'd take.
Yep, he's fun looking, especially when, like we just got done talking about, if you want a Necromancer that stands more of a chance of doing something regardless of where it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, yeah, you might be right about the 6 strength. Maybe that's something they're trying to do. Maybe they're going to buff wizards, because right now wizards tend to not have powerful attacks.
Yeah,
mathematically.
It's the downfall of. So one of the downfalls of Warcry, they give the wizards an interesting or unique ability. Not always great, but interesting or unique. Yep. But then it feels like they have an ability tax, because it seems like maybe GW forgets that you can't use all the abilities every round.
Yeah, the old Necromancer is a great example of that. Really, really good quad, garbage model other than that, and you need to get a quad to make the ability any good.
All right, so next up. Now, I really like this one. So Xandire's Truthseekers, and again, I'm not a big Stormcast guy, and Thunderstrike Stormcast haven't really wowed me, but here is where you really start to see the Underworlds Warband really shine in direct comparison to what they already had. So Xandire herself, you can compare her to the Lord Imperatant or the Vanquisher Prime. She has the same attack profile as the Vanquisher Prime. She's got an extra point of movement, which is nice. 5 fewer hit points, which not a deal breaker in my eyes. A little fragile. But or you can compare it to the Lord Imperatant, and where she really shines is, if you're going to compare her to the Vanquisher Prime, I think she has a much better triple. The triple is coordinated strike. Now, this is, again, more free attacks or free movements, and I really like this the more I look at it, because I think this rewards good play. You can set up a hence the name. You can set up a coordinated strike. Maybe have Xandire go last. Move a guy within range of her. Get a fighter within range of her, and then she coordinates strikes. Even if she's getting like two bonus actions out of it. That can be
abilities. 2 bonus actions, a lot.
Yes, yeah, 2 bonus actions for a triple is a very, very good rate.
And she has another ability that isn't very good.
Yeah, the lantern. Yeah, it was a lantern ability that I didn't really pay much attention to. Then Dora's Giant Fell, you compare him side by side with Annihilator or the Grand Hammer, and he is almost a strict upgrade. He loses a point of strength, but you don't gain a lot by going from strength 5 to strength 6. 2 extra hit points, 10 fewer points, and even picking up a point of movement.
Yep, I think he's pretty good model. That's a really good attack profile.
And then you compare Luxa,
but that's okay.
And you compare Luxa to a Vigilor, and that is a identical profile, just 15 points less.
And has a decent triple.
That's right. Yep, there is a unique triple there as well. In addition to the triple that the Vigilor has, so you actually have choices of triples to use.
Is that Star-Fated Arrow?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That ability is really good, but every once in a while you might bust this out and just try to burst some damage down. Just if you're playing Thunderstrike Stormcast, these are all really good models, I think. Versions of models you were probably going to play anyway.
Yep. There's a bird too. Don't use the bird; it's way too overcosted.
Yep.
But if you happen to pick up this warband, the list and the points just work out perfectly for this. Credit to Salty C. This is in his video. Yeah, those 3 fighters plus 3 Griffhounds. Griffhounds are actually super cheap. I managed to pick them up for like $2 a piece, used in a bunch of places. So, and they're solid models. You can just add them in, and you're coming in at under 1,000 points, and even better, you have 6 models, which is on the high end for Stormcast list. Being able to play Stormcast and actually having 6 models.
And if Gryph-hounds suffer that diminishing return where like the first one is really good, the second one is like not quite as good, and the third one is like fine. They swap very cleanly with Vanquishers. They have the exact same attack profile and the exact same point cost. And then they have like the that great sword ability where they can like AoE models. So if you'd rather have like 2 Gryph-hounds and a Vanquisher, you could do that too.
All right, and then finally we got the Kunnin Krew.
Warren and I were talking about this beforehand, and these guys don't add anything. They don't give you anything.
They don't like move. They don't like move them up a tier, but they are all models that are like very, very close analogs to existing models and a lot cheaper.
Like, they don't fill a niche that didn't exist before. Like they don't like, oh man, they add a ton of mobility, to an army that was looking for it, or a good like a step between a pot grot and like a chaff model, like a decent like model layer. But they're all better than the options that you had in slot for sure.
Yeah, you look at Torka versus a Gut Ripper boss. He doesn't take up a leader slot. 50 points cheaper, and you're only you gain an additional ability, and it costs you 5 hit points.
I've noticed that a lot of these, they're lowering the wounds. The ogre one are all low wounds for ogres.
Yeah, they all got scurvy. That also leads me to believe that there might be like a rebalance of across the board potentially in army books if they're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe the complaints were that like, okay, 40 hit point models were just straight up unkillable. Giant Nurgle guy on fly.
Puscoil, that's a Lord of Afflictions. 42 wounds, toughness 5, can heal himself.
Yeah. So maybe those are contributing to negative play experiences. Maybe you're going to see a global global drop of the hit point ceiling across the board. Who knows?
Well, that was the original design of the game, right? When the game launched, there was no models above 20 hit points.
Right. And then there's like 40, 42s, and
I think it caps at 42, but there's a lot of 30s and 35s.
Yep. So maybe that's the way the game is headed. Who knows?
So, if you're playing Cruel Boys, and you are playing any model in this kind of band, the mid-range models, these are all just straight upgrades. They're very good. They don't give you any angles of attack that you didn't have before, but they do what they do better.
They'll free up some points, give you some more models though, which is always.
And the leader ability is pretty bad. The Master of Merc, it's okay. I mean, you can it kind of gives you cover when you need it for only a double. It's fine. You get and that's on the next slide. I think the Trapper model is actually something new that they did not have.
That's what I was going to ask, because I didn't think they didn't have a net ability before, did
they?
No,
that is one new ability for sure. On this slide, we do get a new angle of attack, and that's
I was just looking at him side by side with the Hobgrots that you had currently, and he compares very well against them. He's a little bit glass cannony at 8 hit points, but he has a 2/4 melee profile, where the other 2 Hobgrots don't.
Brookend is not the netter.
Oh, okay.
It's Shank.
I see it. Yep. Right here.
Brookend is just a cheaper Hobgrot, basically. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely.
And then Gicket is a Stab Grot. 10 points cheaper, but worse. And then Shank gives you a new angle of attack. He has a net ability, a pretty good one. It can be within 2 inches, and it triggers on a 2+ for a double.
That 2+ is super nice.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good net ability. Like it's up there with one of the better net abilities. So That's definitely something you can do. You can't spam it like you can Netas, for example, which kind of lets you put nets all over the board where it's hard to get away from them. But he can definitely, it doesn't take much. You grab a big model, one round, and pin it down can really have a big impact. And that's something this army couldn't do before.
Yeah, yeah, exactly what you said. Neutralizing a rat ogre for one turn.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That'll buy you a world of just feel goods right there.
It certainly does.
So I don't have any lists put together for this. I don't have good full boys list that isn't just like a whole bunch of pockrots.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think it changes it over. It doesn't really. This doesn't really get me interested in playing Cruel Boys where I wasn't interested before. Yeah, I would definitely, if I happen to pick up the Xandires by itself, because Xandires comes in a box currently with the Kunnin Krew. I don't think you can get them separately. If I happen to come across Xandires by itself, though, yeah, I might pick up those 3 models because I already have Griffhounds lying around, and have probably another medium warband with a little bit of variety. A heavy hitter, a range guy, some tricks.
Yeah, I agree with you there. If you don't have the faction already, these guys aren't as likely as the other models that we've looked at to get you into that faction. But if you're already playing it, it's some nice options.
Yeah, very good point. If you happen to pick up a cheap box of Dominion, I'm still hearing reports you can still grab Dominion for $100 in a few places. And from a value standpoint, that's a lot of plastic for $100. That's 2 full warbands and then some. Not great models, but
you don't get a lot of the models that are actually in those factions, right? A lot of those were released after Dominion. They're not like complete Cruel Boys or complete Thunderstrike.
Right. You're getting. Yep. They're in the list. They're available to you. They're available for you to use. You're not gonna have a lot of variety in your warband, but if you want a warband for $50 with a lot of different models to choose from, it is an option.
A lot easier to get than 14 Pockrots and a Killaboss.
You can do a lot worse from GW.
Oh no, Dominion comes with a ton of. Doesn't Dominion come with everything that's playable? Or
I'm fairly confident that it does not, but
let's see. I've got the box in my hand right here because I've got an open Dominion sitting in my room. So Cruel Boys, it has Killaboss on Great Nashhoof, Murknob with Belchabana, Swamp Collar Shaman and Potgrot, Killboss of Stabgrot, 3-man Screw Bolt Boys, 10 Gut Rippers, 20 Hobgrots. So it
doesn't have any Stabgrots.
Gut Rippers. No, that is the one thing it's missing. Stabgrots.
Doesn't have Hobgrot bosses.
Yep, you are right. Oh well, the Killaboss comes with a Stabgrot.
Okay. But and I know that the Thundercast is missing a couple of models here and there too. But you get a lot of plastic. You could build warbands out of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, they wouldn't be great to be spamming a lot of units that aren't great, but it is an option.
You'd be playing like Vindictors probably or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of Vindictors.
yeah.
But yeah, back to when we started to talk about the meme and everything. I think this is definitely the one warband from Underworlds that doesn't make me want to go out and start a new warband.
Yeah, I haven't been super pulled into Cruel Boys, and this didn't change my mind. But if you are, you have options that are definitely better on rate. So if it's all right, I'm going to jump off here and leave you to do the wrap up.
All right.
Cool.
Oh, we have been talking for a while. See what happens when you talk about things you love. Time passes fast.
Yeah, I got to run. It's getting late over here. But yeah, good stuff. I can't wait to see it when you have it edited. Let me find out how to hang up here.
That's why we do this with friends.
Absolutely right.
I could do a solo YouTube channel, but it wouldn't be nearly as fun.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
You have a
good one.
Fred. All right, so it's wrap up time, huh? Haven't done any content in a while, but I also have a YouTube channel called Generally Bad Gamers. I just want to toss that out there.
Oh,
Um,
that's right. Yep. I'll edit the final slide to make sure that we show your content. Get close to wrap up time, so we do make sure we cover upcoming events. Give shout outs to other events that are happening in the area.
awesome.
Try to signal boost them a little bit. So the biggest thing we're looking forward to is Sunday, July 10th. By the time you're listening to this, this will already have passed, but this is coming up for us right now.
Mhm.
And so 9 a.m. Eastern. What I'm thinking is if there's anyone on Discord, and I've already kind of put the shout out on Discord, the Warcry Discord has a voice channel. And so anyone who's up in the morning or afternoon or whatever, wherever they're at, I'm thinking about just hopping on in the voice chat and seeing if anyone else is around, and we could live react it. Bring it up in another window, stream it, or whatever. Make it a community event.
That would be awesome because I've done that with other communities for other games during big reveals. And it's always really fun because everybody gets to share their excitement and everything.
Yep, and it's be awesome if it winds up being good and like not a big nothing burger, but you never know with Games Workshop. It could be like hyping up everything for talk for an hour and show us like two things.
That is true. They go kind of back and forth on whether it's an absolutely amazing game changing release to we want to tell you more here in another 2 months.
Yes. But hopefully this will put an end to some of the rampant rumors and speculation, and we can get back to enjoying the game. Also wanted to mention, so in Willoughby, Ohio, up east of Cleveland, there's a link to the Facebook event for that. There's still a Warcry tournament happening there. It's Swords and Boards. It's looking highly unlikely that I will be able to make the drive to that one because I have another event that weekend. But if you're in the Ohio area, go check that out. I definitely, if they do another event and it happens to match up, I would definitely drive 3 to 4 hours to go play Warcry to support that.
Yep. Or if you're just in that area, if you don't want to play in a tournament, swing in and just meet some of the other players in the area.
And we talked about Gen Con, and then following Gen Con, we have Nova Open. It's actually the entire Labor Day weekend, but the Warcry events are September 1st through 3rd. So Thursday is the Warcry Grand Tournament, and there's also narrative events on Friday and Saturday. I'll start putting more information for those events as we get closer to that. I'll be traveling to Nova for that. Have made a couple chats with the TO. Actually, the TO, Justin, is going to be at Gen Con as well. So keep an eye out. Yeah, keep an eye out for him, Jolly. If I happen to get you two together, I can make an introduction.
Definitely introduce me to if you meet him, because I would like to talk to
be a whole lot of people at Gen Con. Salty C, Dan is going to be there. I would expect the Swolehammer crew to probably make the trip. I'm definitely, from a community standpoint, I'm thinking Gen Con's going to be sweet.
I'm gonna say it'll be nice to meet a bunch of those people I've been talking about this game with for a year and a half now on the Discord. So that'll be pretty awesome.
This brings us to a close for this episode of Dayton Warcry Club. By the time you're listening to this, we should have had our big Warcry reveal, and I can't wait to see what we get for this and other skirmish games. Assuming we have some decent news, we'll have an episode out next week as well, talking about that. Until then, pass on the word about our channel. We aren't super active on Twitter or Reddit, but I've recently started posting more on the Warhammer Warcry group on Facebook. But the best place to find us and interact is on the official Warcry Discord. A great community, link in the description. Until next time, I'm War Machine.
And I'm Jolly.
Thanks for listening. This is where I do a cut. I script the ending here.